here's what's working for you. Here's what you've done. So we got the nutrition stuff covered. Training wise, I've talked a lot about training, in the last few years. I have programs out there. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, kind of, some of my influences and models. And, I know that, what I've done to ultimately build the physique that I had and kind of some of the methods, like it wouldn't be ideal for this type of diet. So what are we looking from a training side of things with this same guy in mind? And then, kind of like where should he look at putting his effort from the training side of things?
Yeah, that's really important, man. So first of all, like I will say, like there are genetic factors that play into this. So like some people may be able to get away with more high volume stuff a little bit more because there's certain genetic aspects of it. Like I'm always reminded of my friend Robert, because my friend Robert has Anthony J read our genes, our DNA on his podcast. Like we were in Arkansas, we were pig hunting and fishing and all that. And we did a podcast episode where we read our DNA, and Robert had like this gene that was associated with, it was slow twitch dominant. It was, he could handle a lot of cardiovascular. He ran a marathon without preparing. And he was almost at his heaviest. He was like right around 190 pounds, and he did it. Like that would crush me.
Just and like signed up and said, I'm going to go run a marathon. Like,
yeah, within a month. And he didn't, I don't even think he trained. I think he might've gone for a run or two. I don't even know if he did. And so like, I can't do that. But for the most part, there is like, you have to think about it this way, like energy systems 101. You have creatine phosphate, you have your glycogen system, you have oxidative. And like for us to be training in a way that we're staying in this glycolytic system, which is go to bodybuilding.com. That's what people are doing, going to bodybuilding.com, getting a program, 5 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 10, like, 30 total sets and like 45-second rest and high reps, 12, 15 drop sets, all these other things. Like all of those things are very glycolytic. And like I try to explain to people, like I am a big fan of fat as an energy source. I think it's the best energy source there is. It's our preferred energy source for a lot of activities. But like once you get into that realm where you're doing more than like 1 or 2 sets or like 1 or 2 burnout sets, and this is the actual workout that you're doing, and you're basically not resting enough, even if you're fat adapted, which fat adaptation will cause you to basically go way higher percentage of your VO2 max or way higher of your max using fat as energy. Even with that, like if you're not giving yourself adequate rest, what's going to eventually happen is you're going to basically start creating sugar out of tissue. And that's the last thing you want, because what happens, like when we train that way, it's very, very stressful. Cortisol rises. And then typically what you do is you have a post-workout shake that has carbs in it, and you don't feel that because carbs are like an easy fix for a lot of stuff. Like you feel dehydrated, you have some carbs. Even if you're not diligent with electrolytes, you can help kind of rehydrate yourself, because you can hold on to water with carbs. Every gram of carbs is like 3 to 4 grams of fluid that you hold on to. And then the other thing is adequate rest periods. So giving yourself that 2 to 3 minute rest period. And then if you do want to tap into that other type of training, like that high volume training, then don't be afraid to do pre-workout carbs. If you really want to be conservative, then you use something like super starch, because super starch is like, it's non-impact. It's basically like, it was created for babies, for children who suffer from glycogen storage disease, who if they hadn't had super starch, every single night that kid is going to sleep, that parent is afraid that their glucose they're going to have a hypoglycemic episode and they're going to die. Like these kids had to be intravenously or fed through the nose every 2 hours, and like just given fluids every 2 hours. And this fixed that for them. So when you start to understand, like in type 1 diabetics, it's a great source for them too. You could do that, or you could do even just a tablespoon of honey. And honey is carnivore friendly because honey is technically not a vegetable. So everybody like talks about honey is part of the animal kingdom.
Okay.
And so like, if you want to be carnivore, you can even among the most selective of carnivore judges on the internet, you would still possibly like keep your carnivore card, just adding like some honey pre-workout. And like that,
guys, be on the lookout for muscle building honey, brought to you by Danny.
yeah, carnivore honey
in your local Publix or shopping store near you.
Yeah, baby, man, honey's great, man. And then the thing about honey too, like if you get raw local honey, then you get those benefits, like you get those antibodies. Dude, and my family, we have allergies. Do you have allergies?
Not too bad. My brothers and sisters do, or my brother and sister does. It hasn't really affected me a lot, but talking about local honey. So, Steph and I took a trip up to the mountains in Georgia earlier this year.
Oh yeah.
Brought some back from the not the Rockies, the Appalachian mountains up there, just like the raw natural. Like,
that is so good, man.
So good. So good. So, okay. So we want rest periods, but what type of split are we going bodybuilding style split? Like, are we doing isolation, or is it a compounded movement, or a mix of both? Like, how should we look to structure the workout?
So the way we did it for our program, and I think this is a great way to do it, is it's full body. So every single day there's a little bit of everything. So we hit legs pretty much. There's some sort of leg movement every single day, and it always starts with legs, which is awesome. You always got to start with legs. That's Ben, like Ben.
Exactly.
Every time Ben wants to take people through a workout, I notice he takes them through a leg workout. You ever notice that?
Oh yeah.
Crushes people with legs. So we always start with legs, but like technically speaking, like if you wanted to write your own workout, what you could do is you can still do supersets, but I would do it with like antagonistic muscles or unrelated muscles. So you would do like a bicep and a tricep, or a tricep and a back. And what I like about that is that if you're someone on like a time crunch and you're looking at this and you're like, man, I can't rest 2 to 3 minutes every single time, I got a time crunch. Well, then maybe you can cut the rest to 1 minute, but you do a superset. So like maybe you do your first set, rest a minute, then do your second set, and rest a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're cutting the rest in half, because you're instead of resting 2 minutes after every exercise, you're only resting 2 minutes total. And then if you're doing that with antagonistic muscles, then you're not really taxing yourself. So you're giving that muscle more time to recover, even if you're still kind of keeping your heart rate fast.
Yep.
And then rep ranges. I mean, I would say if you're looking at it from a time of under tension standpoint, maybe like 30 seconds, 35 seconds. We're not talking about a lot. And like, I think what this does is so beautiful, because what it does is not everybody's going to have a chance to go to Hypertrophy Mastery or go to some sort of seminar to watch Ben teach them. But at the very least, you'll have access to, like if you took our program, for instance, like you see all the videos and you'll learn how to do stuff. And then what's cool, I've seen this a lot, is 2 things happen. Number one, since you rest longer, you focus on the set more. So like every set counts. And number 2, since a lot of the time there'll be 6 reps or 8 reps, maybe 8 reps. Sometimes a lot of times it's 6 reps on stuff. Like you're going to put every single effort of your being into all those 6 reps, So you're focusing on quality over quantity. And like someone our age, I think that sounds pretty attractive to them, because it's not easy to do. Like I'd rather do what I'm doing now and kicking my butt for 30 to 35 seconds per set than, tooling around for 90 seconds or 75 seconds. And just like, after like I get my set done, making a phone call and, like just not.
Yep.
Whereas like now I need those 2 minutes. I need those 3 minutes,
And where 3-4 days a week is adequate frequency?
Yeah. So for the guy we're talking about, 3 to 4 is great. If for a beginner, the beginner program is actually 5 days a week. So it's higher frequency because of that skill part, that they haven't figured out how to really do this perfectly. So they don't really feel their muscles like the way we do.
Yeah.
So we'll also give them an option to like on your last set, maybe do 1 drop set just to feel it a little bit more. So you do that, not even a NOS set, because it's just 1 drop.
Yep.
And so all these things come together. And then of course we educate them on the importance of like, which I'm sure you're doing too, is like managing stress, making sure sleep is good, looking at things like if you do have an Oura ring, looking at your HRV and letting that dictate like how today's going to look. If you're not, if you're feeling like crap, HRV is low, take a rest day. It's okay. And then we also have like kind of other things, like if this is happening, increase your protein. If that's happening, try, bring in some carbs, stuff like that. I mean, it's really not complicated, but it takes focus, and it takes like people to switch their mindset about training, which you've already done. And Ben has always talked about this, is like, don't go in there to just get it done. Go in there to like contract, get in there to get, it's not about completion, it's about contraction.
Physical. I mean, going back, we touched on like actually feeling things working, like, you're not attached to the movement of what actually is occurring outside, but what is actually happening on the inside, and feeling those movements work. Yeah, man, I can't say enough about the both of you. I'm not one that's going to talk a lot about and promote other muscle stuff. Obviously, like that was a big part of my life, and I built a business around it. But great. To know you two guys personally and what you're doing, I mean, it's got the Frank Rich stamp of approval, whatever that means to anybody out there.